Good morning, students. So, you're welcome to this lecture. Yesterday, that is the last week, uh, we ended up with the role of oxytocin in the galactopoiesis. So, as I promised you in the last lecture, that we'll continue with the galactopoiesis further. So, in galactopoiesis, in contrast with the situation in non-ruminants, in which prolactin is more important for lactogenesis. Growth hormone assumes a more prominent galactopoiesis role in ruminants, that is, cows and goats. Growth hormone is required for maintenance of galactopoiesis in cows and goats and increases milk yield in cattle without requiring a proportionate increase in the food intake or a proportionate reduction in the body tissue reserves in the short term. A normally functioning thyroid gland is required for maintenance of lactogenesis. Lowered milk yield and reduced milk fat percentage resulting from thyroid deficiency are reversed by prolonged iodinated protein feeding. Insulin is recognized as essential for the maintenance of normal lactogenesis, but its exact mammary gland action is difficult to distinguish from its general anabolic role. Insulin treatment decreases the milk yield and milk lactose in the lactating cows and goats and increases the milk protein and milk fat. In goats, exogenous insulin favors synthesis of milk fat containing more 12 carbon to 18 carbon fatty acids. So here what we want to state is that the insulin, as we know from our earlier knowledge, it increases the utilization of glucose from the blood, increases the uptake of glucose from the blood into the tissues for its utilization. So similarly, in mammary gland, again, insulin treatment, it causes a decrease in milk yield and the milk sugar, that is the lactose. But at the same time, it causes increase in the milk protein and milk fat content. In case of the goats, when insulin is injected from outside, that is the exogenous insulin, it also favors or it increases the synthesis of milk fat, which is containing the 12 carbon to 18 carbon fatty acids. Intact adrenal glands are essential for the maintenance of lactogenesis in both ruminants and non-ruminant species. In cattle, the plasma corticosteroids are higher in lactating animals than in non-lactating animals, and high-yielding cows have more corticosteroids than low-yielding cows. So this explains the role of adrenal glands, because the corticosteroids, they are secreted from the adrenal glands. So uh, it is very much important and an essential requirement that the adrenal glands should be intact for maintenance of leptogenesis, that is the milk production, in both the ruminants as well as non-ruminants. Then the stoppage of galactopoiesis or cessation of galactopoiesis occurs by involution of the mammary glands. In the animals, involution of the mammary gland may be initiated, which is gradual in nature. Initiated involution refers to the regression of the gland as a result of a sudden cessation of milk removal during galactopoiesis. Gradual involution is the regression of mammary gland during the normal course of galactopoiesis. So this point we will take up again in next few slides later when we discuss about the lactation cycle. So there again I will mention to you that the decrease in the milk yield as the pregnancy, as the lactation cycle process progresses, or as the gestation or the pregnancy progresses. That is because of the gradual evolution of mammary glands during normal course of galactopoiesis. Initiated involution is of practical value in sows, since the production objectives aim at increasing the annual number of piglets per dam rather than the annual milk yield. So here what we want to state is that the involution of the mammary glands, which is started by the farmer or by the uh, dairy farmer, that is very important, because in case of certain species, for example, in case of the sows, the female pigs, our aim of having the pregnancy is to have more number of piglets per dam. But the aim is not to have milk or increase in the milk yield. Same goes true for the bitches. There the aim of breeding is to have more number of pups with each whelping rather than having the increase in the milk. So in these cases again, the involution is induced from outside with the various practices. Same is true even in case of the cows, where the milk is our main concern, but towards the end of lactation, the involution of the mammary glands is induced, which is a part of the standard practice, and I will tell you the reason why we do it in those cases. Although there the number of animals, normally number of young one is only going to be one, but still we do it. So we will be talking about that also. That is, what is the reason behind that. But in case of these animals, the sows and bitches, where we want to have a large number of young ones, so here the initiative evolution is of practical value. Gestation stops galactopoiesis in goats and reduces the milk production in cows. In mares and bitches, large doses of estrogen are used to put a sudden end to the lactogenesis. So then we come to the another topic, that is the lactation cycle. Now, what is the lactation cycle? Lactation cycle is basically the process of milk secretion, process of lactation throughout one pregnancy, which almost is in 1 year. So that is why this is called as a lactation cycle. That is, it includes the milk production right from the parturition, during the course of gestation, and then till the end of the gestation. So lactation cycle has 4 phases: the dry period, which is the development of small ducts and alveoli, especially near calving. Second phase is around calving. That is when the differentiation of alveolar cells or alveoli cells into actively secreting cells occur. That is the second phase, around the calving. Then third phase is the lactation phase or lactation period, during which all the secretory cells are directed towards milk synthesis, and no further mammary growth occurs. The fourth and the final phase is involution of the mammary gland. That is what we referred in the earlier slides as well. The gradual but irreversible reduction in the number of active alveoli occur as a result of involution of the mammary glands. This involution of mammary gland, it starts after the peak of lactation, but is more pronounced during late lactation. At this point, I will again elucidate in when we see the graph of the lactation cycle. So this is the graph of the lactation cycle. So in this graph, the daily milk yield, which is also known as DMY, that is plotted against the days of pregnancy or days of gestation. And this includes the milk yield right from the day of the calving, that is the 0 day, till about 2 months before the end of pregnancy, that is the dry period, which is normally 60 days or sometimes 65 days. So that is known as the lactation cycle, which is shown in this graph. So in this graph, you can very well see that there is an increase in the daily milk yield from day of calving till about 90 days, 60 to 90 days, when the yield hits the peak or when there is maximum milk yield, now, which is represented by rise in the curve. That is the daily increase in the milk yield till about the peak that comes between 60 to 90 days. And after that, the milk yield starts falling, which we have already mentioned because of the involution of the mammary gland, which is brought about by the galactopoiesis. And then till about 2 months before the end of the pregnancy, that is the parturition, that is 60 days before parturition, when the animal is dried off. This drying off is basically that when we stop milking the animal, we stop removing the milk from the animal. So as we mentioned earlier, that if the uh, milk which is ejected due to the letdown because of the oxytocin is not removed, then it will lead to the decrease in the lactogenesis and involution of the mammary glands. So that is what happens. And as I was talking to you in that slide, that I'll let you know the reason. The reason is now why we dry off the animal. The reason is that we want that the nutrients which the animal is getting through nutrition should not be used in secretion of milk, but instead should be used for having better growth of the fetus and also for having a better growth of the mother. So, as a result of drying off, as a result of the involution of the mammary glands, the nutrients they are utilized by the body of the mother for its own health and growth and increase in body weight, and also to encourage supplement the growth of the fetus inside. So that is why the drying off is done. So this is the reason why the initiation of involution of mammary glands is very important. So going further, the we have already talked of one term, daily milk yield, which is also known as daily milk production. So what is the daily milk production? It is the amount of the milk which is produced by the animal in one day. That is known as daily milk yield, or in brief, it is referred as DMY. So, daily milk production increases during the first few weeks of lactation. So, this point I have already pointed you out in the last slide. You can appreciate it from the rise in the curve, constant rise in the curve right from the start. That is day 0 till about 60 to 90 days. There is a constant rise, which is because of the daily milk production increase. Then peak milk yield is usually achieved at about 4 to 8 weeks after calving. Maximum milk yield is obtained at 60 to 90 days, and after that the milk yield starts decreasing slowly during rest of the lactation due to the mammary gland involution, which is occurring because of one fact which you have already indicated, that is the galactopoiesis, that is the regular milk removal from the mammary glands, and also because of the other factor which is very important, that is the weaning of the young one. Because by 2 months the calf, in case of the cattle or buffalo, it starts digesting the green fodder because the rumen becomes totally functional. As a result, it is not suckling the mother. As a result, it is not being given the milk. So that absence of suckling, absence of calf suckling the mother, that also is a major reason for involution of the mammary gland, which results in the decrease in the milk production, constant decrease in the milk production. That is obvious in the last slide in the curve, which is going downward after 90 days. So these are the reasons basically why the milk yield constantly, continuously keeps on decreasing after achieving the maximum milk yield or peak yield at about 90 days. Then coming to another very important aspect, that is the factors affecting milk yield and the composition of the milk. The first factor in this is the genetics, the gene pool of the animal. The primary determinant of milk yield is genetics. Proper management is very important to allow the expression of the genetic potential. Here, I would like to detail this point because the milk yield will depend upon the genotype of the animal. So, the breeds which have higher milk yield, they have a better genotype. So that is why the crossbreeding program was taken up, where the Indian breeds, the indigenous breeds which had low milk production, they were crossbred with the foreign breeds, for example, Holstein Friesian, or with the Jersey, so as to have the animals with better genetics or better gene pool. So when these animals are given better management conditions, better housing, and also good nutrition, so they result in giving higher milk yield. The composition of the milk is also totally dependent upon the genetics, on the breed characteristics. For example, the Holstein Friesian or Jersey, or for that matter, all the high yielding breeds of cows, since the amount of milk that is produced by them, secreted by them, is very high, so they have a lower fat content in the milk. So this is a genetic character of the breed. While at the same time in Indian breeds, for example Sahiwal, the milk yield was much less, but at the same time relatively the milk fat percentage was higher. So it is the gene pool, it is the genetics of the breed of the animal, uh, to the breed to which it belongs, which determines the composition of the milk, provided that the animal is given balanced diet, proper feed and fodder, which is having sufficient nutrients. Second major factor for affecting the milk yield and composition, that is the nutrition. Nutritional requirements of lactating cows, they are much greater than the dry cows. So that is why in next year when you will be studying the courses of nutrition, so there they will be teaching you about calculation of the balanced ration for the lactating cow and for the dry cow. So there this difference will be much more visible. You will be able to appreciate that the nutrients which are given to the lactating cows, they are much more as compared to the dry cows, because the dry cows are simply got to be maintained, while lactating cows, since they are in milk, so they are producing milk, so a large amount of their nutrients are being secreted in the milk, so they need more such nutrients from the diet. So their diet will be their ration, their balanced ration will be different from that of the dry animals. Then the next factor that is there, that is called the litter size. The greater will be the litter size, the more will be the demand, thus greater will be the milk yield. This point I had talked to you right in the start, in the very first lecture, when we were discussing the differences in the udder of a cow versus an udder of a goat versus an udder of a sow or a bitch. So the typical example here is of the litter size in case of the bitches, which is normally 3 to 6, and in case of the sows, which is normally between 6 to 9, and in certain breeds it is 9 to 12 even. So that is the reason why these mothers, or the females in these species, they have more number of teats, more number of quarters, more number of mammary glands, because the litter size is bigger, it is much bigger. Then the growth hormones. Milk yield can be increased by 10 to 15% by injection of growth hormones. Bovine somatotropin is an example of that. And we did discuss about the effects of the bovine somatotropin, or effect of the growth hormone on the milk yield. It is true that it can increase the milk yield by 10 to 15%, but the use of bovine somatotropin is banned in India as well as in the European Union, in US and Canada, because of its residual effects. Then lastly, the health of the animal, that is the disease conditions. Good health is very important for good performance. If the animal is healthy, it will produce more milk, it will secrete more milk. But if the animal is diseased, then its milk production will go down. For example, again, when I was talking to you about the importance of studying the lactation physiology, I gave you this example that there are diseases of the udder or the mammary glands, and the major disease that is there is mastitis, which is the inflammation of the mammary glands. And the mastitis, in case of the dairy cow, can reduce its milk yield by 30% or more. That means almost one third of the milk yield can be reduced due to the mastitis. As far as the details of this disease is concerned, when you will go in fourth year, then the people in veterinary medicine, they will be dealing in detail with the mastitis, that is the reasons of mastitis, what are the changes which are occurring, and what treatment that can be given to treat the mastitis in dairy cows. This has also been seen that the mastitis is more common, more incidence has been observed in case of the dairy cows as compared to buffaloes. So with this, I end up with the lectures on lactation physiology. So this is the last lecture as far as the lactation physiology is concerned. My next point is that if you have any doubts about what we have studied in the course of these 7 lectures of lactation physiology, you can write back to me through email, the one in which I had sent you the messages, and you can give me your queries, your questions. I'll be more than happy to respond to the same. And at the same time, these lectures, all the 7 lectures, they are still open for viewing by all of you, and they'll remain open for viewing till tomorrow, that is Tuesday evening. After that, I will be removing these lectures from the site. So you can again have a revision, you can have a look and clear your concepts, and also you can go through the notes in order to clarify your doubts. And still, if they are not clear, then you can definitely write back to me through the email. The next lecture would be taken by Dr. Manjinder Sharma, and she will be dealing in detail about the growth in the animals. Thank you very much, all of you.